That's so good. Can I just say, I feel like I was really in my audiobook era this month. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Hi, my name is Liz, and in today's video we are going to be discussing my November reading wrap up. So we're going to chat about all the books that I read / listened to in the month of November. I listened to so many audiobooks this month. I think I ended up listening to 4 audiobooks, which is very different for me. Usually I read physically and then I rarely will throw in an audiobook depending on like what the month looks like. But this month I feel like I had so much car time. I was driving in my car so often this past month, so I feel like I was just able to crank through a lot of audiobooks, which I really enjoyed. Some of them were really amazing on audio, so I'm really excited to talk about them. But also I just want to say, how are we already in the month of December? How has this snuck up on us? Like, I am shocked that we're already in December. I'm not ready for December. I have been Christmas shopping and doing all the things Christmassy related, but I'm just not ready. Like, I feel like just this whole year has gone by way too fast and I'm not happy about that. That's not what this video is about though. Let's go ahead and get into today's video. Let me get my reading journal out so I can remember all of my ratings that I gave these books. Okay. The first book that I read this month was The Resurrectionist by Kathleen Allen. This I actually listened to as an audiobook. I had an ARC for it, which I believe it's already out, so you could very easily go and pick up this book. But this book, I knew I kind of wanted to listen to it before getting into like the winter season. I thought it would be a really great fall read, and I will say I think it was. I really thoroughly enjoyed this book. You're following 2 different sisters. They're twins. It is set in like I don't even know what decade this is set in, but it is set in the past where like women are dressed in these like fancy dresses, as you can see, and women are not able to have certain professions. So the main sister we're following, she has always wanted to be a surgeon. She wants to follow in her father's footsteps, and the story starts out with their father passes away and they're going through like the funeral process. Our surgeon sister, she ends up meeting this boy who's around their age, and he can tell that she's interested in becoming a surgeon, and so he kind of helps her out. He takes her on these nighttime adventures to the cemetery where they're basically grave robbers. So they will dig up dead bodies and experiment on them, and this is kind of her opportunity to be a part of that and to learn the human body. She ends up uncovering her father's journal, and in her father's journal he discusses the process of resurrecting a person. Through an argument with her sister, her other sister ends up dying, very accidental, and she ends up following her father's journal steps to resurrecting her sister. It is a very gory and gruesome book because it does describe the human anatomy and the whole process of, you know, cutting someone open and finding these certain things to bring them back to life. I thought it was very interesting. It has a little bit of mystery, has a little bit of romance, has a little bit of everything that you could possibly want in a book. I thought the audio was done really well. This one, it kept me guessing, and it definitely took me on a wild ride from start to finish. The next book that I read was Blood Over Brighthaven by M.L. Wang. I actually buddy read this with my coworker, and I thoroughly enjoyed my time while reading this book. This story, you're following 2 different characters. Our main character, she is studying to be a high mage, and in this world, high mages are only men, and so she is the first woman to ever actually pass the exams, and she is able to actually go in and study at this academy to become a high mage. Obviously, she faces a lot of prejudice from the other male cohorts that she has, and they end up giving her a janitor as her assistant. He has his own backstory and everything, and you learn that throughout the story. I thought it was just very interesting. I really enjoyed this world that we were in and learning the magic. It does include these maps, so it shows the map of the city that we're in, and you also learn a spellograph. It shows you what that looks like and how they create and use their magic. What's interesting about this world is it is set in this like dome, basically. Outside of the dome, there's this thing called the Blight, which can kill someone. It'll strike you and unravel you and you're gone, but you're safe if you're in the dome. Through the process of our main character and this janitor working together, trying to find answers, they uncover some really terrible secrets, and they have to figure out what they're going to do with this information. I ended up giving it 4 stars. I highly recommend it to anybody who is a fan of fantasy worlds set at a school, because it definitely felt like a very academic setting, and I really enjoyed our female main character's growth throughout this book. I thought she had such a great character arc, and I actually ended up tearing up at the end of this book. Highly recommend this one. The next next book I actually read this with my fantasy book club that I am in, and that is The Baby Dragon Cafe. I don't have much to say about this one. I feel like you're getting basically what you're getting on the cover for most of this book. Our main character, she actually owns and runs a baby dragon cafe, and it is the only business in town that allows dragons to enter the establishment, and she soon realizes why. It's very, very expensive trying to allow dragons into your establishment because they are constantly breaking things. As she is learning this, she ends up running out of money and she needs another source of income. And then in comes our male protagonist, and basically he has a baby dragon that he inherited from his older brother. He never wanted a dragon. This is his brother's dragon, and he needs help training and raising this dragon. So he hires our main character to help him go through the process of training this dragon, and he will pay her to do that. And that is how she's able to keep her business afloat. It is a romance. It's very, very cozy. It's kind of got like all the cozy tropes that you could think of in a fantasy world. It had some cute moments, definitely had some cringy moments as well. I'm not a cozy reader. That is one of the things I have discovered about myself, is I'm not a huge fan of cozy fantasy. I think there's a time and place for it, but if I'm not in the mood for it, then I don't want to be reading it, and I'm rarely in the mood for cozy. So I think that is part of the reason why my rating isn't higher than it is. I do think that it is the right book for cozy readers. If you love a cozy fantasy, then this is the one for you. The next book I actually listened to as an audiobook, and I did order a physical copy. I'm just waiting for it to get in, and that is Bottom of the Pyramid by Nia Sui, or Sue. I don't know how she pronounces her last name, but this is a memoir by Nia, who is best known for being on Dance Moms as a kid. If you've been watching any of my videos, then you know recently I have been rewatching Dance Moms, and that is because of this memoir. I have been so thoroughly invested with watching the show and listening to this audiobook and learning about her story. It discusses a lot of her challenges growing up as a young Black girl who is on a team of all white girls. Some of the like more racist comments and things and actions that were aimed towards her throughout this filming of this show. You also get a lot of behind the scenes of what went on during Dance Moms through all these seasons, and I thought it was really, really interesting hearing it from her perspective, because she has always been one of the more like outsider dancers on the team, and so I thought it was really interesting seeing things from her point of view, because she did see a very large scope of what was going on, and I feel like she knew from a very young age that a lot of this was not normal, especially with Holly as her mom, who was the most mature and intelligent mother who was on this show. I feel like she had a good head on her shoulders, and she did a really great job explaining her story, explaining her feelings and how this whole thing, what it meant to her, and also the aftermath and like the healing process and like where she went after the show and how she was able to still find success even though she was no longer a part of Dance Moms. I really, really enjoyed it. I highly recommend it, and with the audiobook, she actually is the one narrating it, so I love it whenever it's the actual person telling their story. I'm not going to give it a rating because it's a memoir, it's someone's story, and I don't have any right to rate their story, but I will say I thoroughly enjoyed it. The next book that I read this month was The Marriage Act by John Marrs. This is a dystopian world set in like the near future where basically marriage is almost law. Like it's kind of turning in that way. It's not like it's against the law to be single. It's just a lot harder to live and get jobs and do certain things if you are a single individual. If you decide to become a part of the Marriage Act and like you sign on to be one of these couples, they put this camera inside your house and it records your conversations. It will tell you whether or not you're in a good marriage or if you're having issues, and like if you are having issues, it'll advance you on to level 2, which is then you have to wear like a smartwatch basically, and it gives you motivational texts throughout the day, and it will continue to monitor what you're doing. And then if that's not working, then you get promoted to level 3, which is where an actual person will come and stay in the house with you, and it's basically a counselor in a way, like a couples counselor. They're coming in, living with you, watching your day-to-day, and kind of like giving you therapy sessions throughout it, trying to see what's going wrong with your marriage. And then if they, by the end of their stay, think that you should be divorced, then they will petition you up to the marriage court, and they'll decide whether or not you get to stay married or if you get divorced. And in this world, if you are a part of this act, you get tax breaks. It's cheaper for your kids to go to school. They get to go to like the nice school district. Like there's perks to being a part of this. So it's not like you're just signing on to something and then having all these restrictions. There are a lot of perks, and it's set in a world where things are very, very expensive, and it's hard for people to even live and breathe and do their thing without being a part of this Marriage Act. It is following like 5 or 6 different characters, and so you're getting someone in like every different division of this, and it's very, very interesting. The chapters are very short and quick and easy, so it felt like it had really great pacing, and I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. It also felt super realistic, and that was kind of scary because this could be our reality in the near future. The next book I read is Undead and Unwed by Sam Tashida. I don't know how to say that. I got this as an ARC a few months ago, and I knew I wanted to read it going into the winter season. This is actually the first book I was going to read for my winter TBR. I actually didn't put it on my winter TBR because at the time that I was filming it, I already finished this, so I didn't want to add it on there if I was already reading it. But I really wanted a book that gave me a taste of like the holiday romance rom-com feel, and this one definitely did that. It wasn't the best book I've ever read, but it definitely gave me the feelings that I was looking for. This book, you're following our main character who is a vampire. She is single. She's working at this like blood bank. Well, she finds out that she has inherited this bed and breakfast in Vermont, and meanwhile she lives in LA. She inherited this because the girl whose identity she stole, it's her grandmother. It then went to her. So she has to move to this small town that has like a Christmas tree farm next door, this bed and breakfast that she's gonna try to help run. It's very Hallmark feeling, but she's a vampire. So clearly there's some challenges that go along with that. It was very funny and very outlandish. It was not realistic at all. Besides the vampires, just the way that this whole thing and scenario went down did not make any sense. It was very silly, I will say that. I don't even know. I have a lot of mixed feelings about this book. Our main character, she ends up going to a therapist, and she tells her therapist straight up, I'm a vampire. And then her therapist then turns it into, I'm sure you feel like one sometimes, and why do you feel that way? And like won't take her seriously, even though she's like, I literally killed my neighbor and turned her into a vampire. I drank her dry. I'm a vampire. And her therapist is just like, I'm sure you feel really isolated. And like just will not take her seriously. Like, I mean, I was laughing while I was reading it, but like in disbelief, because like this is so stupid and crazy how this is all happening. And then also her 300-year-old ex-boyfriend comes into town and is jealous that she's trying to move on and date with a Christmas tree farmer. Like it was just all over the place. If you are a fan, once again, of cozy Hallmark feeling books, then this would be a great one for you. The next book that I actually listened to as an audiobook on one of my car rides was This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Motar and Max Gladstone. I have always wanted to read this book. It is definitely one of those books that I've heard amazing things about, and I've always been intrigued by it. It is like a sci-fi novella, so if you're wondering like what genre it should be put in, that is where I would put it. And I got this beautiful special edition of this book. It is stunning. I love it so much. But this is set in a war-torn world where there's two different sides. There's like the garden, and that is what side our blue character is on. And then there's this other side, which I can't quite remember what the organization is called, but that is what side red is on. And so our two main characters, it's dual POV, are red and blue. And they have been sending letters and messages back and forth, even though they're on opposite sides of this war. This felt like a sci-fi movie when I was listening to it, because the way things were described, the way this war was going down, and like the technology and the nature and the things that we're all fighting, it just felt like I was watching a sci-fi movie. And I really enjoyed their story, them together, because the whole time you're going through, you're having a chapter of each of them, but then the chapter will end with listening to a letter that the other person sent them, and then it'll switch to their POV. And the whole time, like, they're developing feelings for each other, even though they have never actually laid eyes on each other. They just know of each other, and like they share their thoughts and feelings and opinions with each other. And I felt like they just created such a safe space between each other, being able to share their feelings. It was also deeply romantic. The things that they would send or say to each other were so beautiful. It was just such a fun read. I'm the type of person who loves to visualize things. I couldn't visualize what they looked like for the life of me, and that is one of the things that irritated me about this book. That's the only reason why I didn't rate it higher. I gave it 4 stars, which is still amazing, but it could have been a 5-star read if I was able to fully understand and comprehend what was happening. But I think if you can set that aside and just be present while listening or reading this book and taking it for what it is, I think you could thoroughly enjoy this world, even if you aren't a big sci-fi lover. And the next book that I read was Daughter of No Worlds by Carissa Broadbent. This is the first book in her War of Lost Hearts trilogy. They're right now in the process of releasing like the new traditionally published covers of this book. This is the indie cover, and I have had this on my TBR for so long, and I knew I needed to read it because I love Carissa Broadbent's writing so much. I knew it was just a matter of time, and as soon as I read it, I was gonna love it, and I was right. I am so obsessed with this series. I'm currently in the middle of book 2, and I'm thoroughly enjoying it. I'm loving it so much. Just like with with her Serpent and Wings of Night series. The writing style, it's so fast paced. It kind of throws you in and you're learning as you go. It doesn't feel like the world building is too complex to where you can't understand, but it's still complex enough. Like, she's clearly thought out this world that we are in with her characters. I love our two main characters in this book. I'm obsessed with them and their relationship. Our main character, Tisana, she is a slave and she ends up being able to buy her freedom back. But when she goes to buy her freedom, the man who is like her owner denies her, even though she gave him the amount he had originally told her. She ends up killing him in order to get away because he's trying to kill her. In the middle of all this, she seeks refuge with the Orders. And so the Orders is this magical community that lives on this island. So she has magic and she's using the Orders to kind of help train her and refine her magic so that way she can then go back and free her friends, her family, the people who are also still slaves back where she came from. The man who is put in charge of training her, his name is Max, and he is kind of like an ex-Order member. He doesn't want to be a part of the Order anymore, but he has obligations, so he ends up helping train her reluctantly. And while they are going through this whole training thing, they are slowly developing this bond together. I loved their bond so much. I loved the character arc and I loved seeing their growth together from becoming not enemies, but like just not caring about the other into, oh, you are my best friend. I found myself giddy reading this book. I could not wait to get back into this world and hearing their story, and I really enjoyed these characters. I ended up giving this 4.5 stars. Really enjoyed it, and I'm excited to continue on with the series. And the last book that I actually just finished this morning, which was another audiobook, and that is The Merge. This is a newer book that came out within the past couple of weeks. It is a dystopian world set in like a near future. Basically, it is the UK has come up with a way to deal with population control. They've come up with this whole system called The Merge. You and another individual can merge your minds together and become one being, and it's supposed to help with population growth. And so this book, you're following our main character Amelia and her mother Lori. Her mother Lori, she has Alzheimer's, and Amelia doesn't want to lose her mom. So that's why they are deciding to go through this whole merge process. And while they're there and they're going through like the preparation for it, they're meeting other merge contestants as well. And so you're getting a lot of very different individuals with a lot of very different situations. So we have a father and his daughter who are being merged. His daughter is actually only 17, so she's still a minor, but she has a problem with drugs. She can't stay sober, and so he is wanting to merge with her to keep her sober. Then we also have a couple who are engaged and one of them is pregnant, so you're seeing them. They want to merge, and so that way they can have their baby, because at this point in time their earth is overpopulated, and so getting pregnant and having kids is frowned upon. So this is kind of like their solution to that. So like if we merge, then it's one less person, we can make room for our baby to grow and thrive. And then we also have two brothers. One of them has cancer and the other one just wants to keep his brother healthy. So that is like the different merge couples that you are learning about throughout this whole process. I thought it was so interesting and intriguing because you are learning about so many different situations. All the questions I would have had going into something like this, it kind of answers for you, and it discusses all of that. It doesn't go into all like the science behind merging brains, but you get the point. And it explains like the aftermath of like, okay, if we're now merged, like what if you have a significant other? Now your partner is merged with someone else, and like how do you feel about that? It goes through all the feelings and emotions that you would have about merging with someone, and also the people around you, how that would affect them. I could not stop listening to it. I feel like right now I'm just loving dystopians. I have a lot of other dystopians that are on my winter TBR that I'm excited to get to. I'm just like loving that genre right now. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I am planning on getting a physical copy of it for my shelf because I thoroughly enjoyed it. I just highly recommend it. I thought it was so interesting, and I think anyone could enjoy it because it does talk about so many different individuals. So like any age range could read it and find some common ground. It also, I think, would be a great book club like discussion book because it's so fascinating, just like the whole thought of this being a reality. Time to pick them up. The stack's not as big as it could be because I have 2 books that I need to get physical copies of to add to the stack. But these are all the books that I read in the month of November. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to my recap of this past month. I thought it was such a successful reading month. There were some winners and there were also a couple that like weren't the best, but I kind of expected those ones not to be the best just because it wasn't what I was really in the mood for at the time. But overall, I'm really satisfied and happy with how this whole month went. There's a couple of books I'm in the middle of right now, so So I'm excited to talk about those in my upcoming wrap up, which will actually be my 2025 wrap up, which will be me talking about all of the books that I have read in the year of 2025, which is insane. So crazy that this is our last like monthly wrap up and our next one is going to be a yearly wrap up. I feel like this has also put a lot of books in perspective. Like, okay, I definitely want to get to that by the end of the year. I'm really excited about my winter TBR. I feel like I have some really great books to get to and I'm just so motivated to read, which is amazing. Such a good feeling. Stay tuned for next week because I will be posting my winter recommendations video. Excited to chat about some books that I recommend for the winter season. Once again, thank you guys for watching and I will see you in my next video. Happy reading. Bye.